We're here. We are finally here. I am very excited to welcome you all to the very first episode of No Particular Theme, Just Apps. I've been wanting to create this channel for a very long time, and I had a goal to release my very first episode before the end of 2020. And so here we go. I created this channel because I would love to share how I dissect the design of some of my favorite apps and some of yours as well. And given that this is the very first episode, I would also love to introduce myself and sort of set expectations as to what you should expect from these videos and how the format of them will be. To start off, my name is Freddie. I am a product designer based out of Denver. I work at a company where I design products for tech candidates. So on my day-to-day, I happen to dissect lots and lots of apps too. This videos would be very interactive. So you're going to see me really point at things to help you guys follow along with what I'm looking at on my phone. I might also type something out if need be. But within this very first episode, we'll be dissecting Letterboxd. Now, Letterboxd is an app that my friend Anthony introduced me to. Anthony is a movie enthusiast. And every time I see Anthony, I ask him, hey, what's the latest and greatest as of late? And the last time that I asked him that, he showed me this app. And instantly I saw that it was fulfilling that need. The need to know what Anthony has recently watched. And so let me go ahead and open up my phone. I want to talk about the visual design of the app for a little bit. I want to talk about the interactions and how discoverable they are. I also want to talk about something in particular that I think is kind of strange, but I could see why they do it. And lastly, just the overall user experience of the app. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and dive into Letterboxd. The very first thing that caught my eye of Letterboxd is the colors. I think that it's great that they're very muted. This reminds me a little bit of Spotify in some sense. They allow for the cover of movies to be the thing that stands out, pops out at me, right? And as we come into the app, the very first thing that I am presented, it's what's popular this week, new from friends and popular with friends. And right away, that's exactly what I want to see. I want to see what Anthony has recently watched. And it looks like Anthony just watched Tenet. That's funny. So Anthony rated Tenet 3 out of 5, and his review was okay. So I guess I won't be watching Tenet. But one thing that happens to be quite annoying, honestly, from the app is sort of the business model in some sense. Now I get it. Products have to make money. And in this case, Letterboxd really wants me to upgrade to using Pro. And if I don't upgrade, I am going to continue to see ads. Now, I think it's expected to see ads in websites now. It's very common. I think in the context of native apps, though, it's really annoying. It feels like this should just be clean in some sense. And so that's kind of the thing I don't like about Letterboxd is just having to see ads in general. I would love to talk about some of their detail pages because really that's almost sort of the meat and bones of this app, right? It's me coming in and wanting to see some of these things. Now, we're into a detail page, so to speak. We're on So, and I recently just watched So. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. And I've rated this movie already. And there's multiple ways to do that. I could go ahead and tap this more menu at the top here, or I could go ahead and scroll down and we have this sort of button here that says you've rated this film 5 stars. And in both cases, if I tap either of those, I am presented this bottom sheet where actions like watch, liked, and adding to your watch list are sort of tucked away in. Now, to me, these seems like pretty important actions. Why not extract them out of these bottom sheets and include them into the detail page themselves? Now, I don't think they need to be pinned to the bottom of this page whatsoever. Clearly can be pinned to the top. I love these cover photos where if I keep scrolling, that title then jumps up to the top navigation to add more context to the user as they're scrolling down the page. That's great. But I do think that, those actions could be extracted and maybe even placed right here to where it's a lot easier than having to dig for them in some sense. One of the main things that I love about using Letterboxd is that if I like a specific actor from a movie, or I don't know, if I want to just look more into the genre, the studio that created it, in this case, let's just say Jamie Foxx. And I could go ahead and tap into Jamie Foxx. And Jamie Foxx and pretty much all actors happen to have a profile on Letterboxd where I could see the stuff that Jamie Foxx has acted in, the stuff he's produced, stuff he's written, which is awesome. It really allows for that additional exploration and where I could go ahead and discover more of that specific actor. Another thing that I wanted to touch on was affordances. Now, if we look here within this sort of description, we see that the progressive disclosure that Letterboxd uses is sort of this gradient, where we could tell that there's a little bit more to read there, right? But there's no sense of see more or read more. I would just have to tap on it, and then I am presented more of that information. Now, I think that's great, honestly. I know that there's probably the sense of, well, do users know that you can go ahead and tap that? And, I think to the point where we're at now, I think it's okay. I think people could discover a lot of things now. For the most part, I would say that a lot of us are power users in some senses. And we see the same thing even, if I go over to Jamie Foxx again, we see that here as well, where if I tap that, then that just opens up a huge description of Jamie Foxx. Which that's cool. It's cool that his picture is pinned, even though he looks pretty mad there. And I actually found this awesome because I started to then kind of mess with it more to see what it is that I could discover. And one thing that I discovered was that if I go ahead and swipe left, I'm then shown the other movie that was next within that list. Again, there's no affordance that says that, right? There's no sort of left arrow or right arrow that tells me swipe left or swipe right in order to discover more films. And again, I think that's okay. I think that this idea of discoverability is great for the connection that products can have with people. If I myself feel like I know exactly how to utilize this app, then I might be more enticed to continue to use this product because it's something that I'm building some sort of relationship with. So overall, I think that things like this create stickier experiences, even though that they don't have those affordances right away to say, hey, this is where, if you tap here to see more of the description. I think, to me, that's okay. Now, awesome. Now, one of the things that I do think that could use a bit more work, or not even work in general, just like, to me, it feels almost in some sense broken, but this add button down here. Now, that's really important, right? If we think about buttons like this, we think about maybe Instagram. Now, I know the location of the button within the context of Instagram is very controversial at the moment, still is, even a few months after them placing it elsewhere. But really, it's the reason why you go to Instagram, to see what your friends are up to see what they posted. And it's really the same case here, right? I want to see what Anthony has recently watched. And if I go ahead and tap that add button, I am adding Soul because I was just in Soul's description page. And that makes sense. It's sort of like a shortcut in some sense, right? But if I go home and I tap that again, then I have the ability to add just whatever movie. And I get it. Like I mentioned, it's a shortcut. But to me, it seems like that should be very independent whether you're on a description page or not. So if I'm on a description page, I should still be presented the same add function that I'm presented in other places as well. Now, the overall user experience of the app, I want to say it's great. I think that Letterboxd does an incredible job at being consistent with certain things. One of them being their segmented control. Now, they're utilizing the native iOS one, which is great. But we could see that here within the home screen, right? If I toggle over to search, which is a very robust search, I could see that same segmented control. If I go over to activity, I see the same thing. And if I go to profile, I continue to see that segmented control. Now, I think that there's also a lot of debate of this idea of, consistency. And I think where the issue lies within consistency is context. And I think for the most part, if you look through all those pages that I just sort of went through, the context is there of why it is that you should continue to utilize that same segmented control. If for any reason, there was a need for two segmented controls, then I see a reason of why not to break out of this native one and maybe go with something that we see on material design or something along those lines. So nonetheless, I do like how there's consistency within this. I think the app is very modern, given some of those affordances that I talked about, and the lack of. I love the use of cards, the use of list items. And overall, I think at its core, it's doing what I want, which is to see what Anthony has watched lately. So that is my review or dissect of Letterboxd and the design of Letterboxd. I would love to hear your thoughts of what you think of the design in the comments below. Also, please leave any of your favorite apps. I would love to not only dissect my favorite, but yours as well. So thank you so much for joining me in this very first episode of No Particular Theme, Just Apps. See you guys at the next video. Peace.